Hello, happy Fitness Friday.
Happy Fitness Friday, guys. We are excited to be here to talk about earning MEPs in cardio and resistance training.
It's going to be a fun topic with some live demo. You're going to enjoy that. I'm Dr. Ayla Donlin.
And I'm Emily Sopo.
And we are your Myzone Master Trainers. Emily and I are certified group exercise instructors, personal trainers. We use Myzone for our own workouts and, of course, with our clients. We really enjoy collaborating to bring you content here live every Friday, and there's other resources available as well.
There sure are. So you can learn more about Myzone by going to myzone.org. If you scroll down and see our faces, click on our faces, and you can check out the Master Training blog where we give all sorts of tips and sample workouts, and just check it out. And then you can also learn more at Myzone Moves on YouTube, where we house all of our previous Fitness Friday broadcasts. We've been doing Fitness Friday broadcasts for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Over that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of content there, guys. Check it out. You can also learn more about Myzone all over social media.
Yes. Hi, Marcin. Hi, Camilla. And hi, Coach B. Thanks for checking in. And when you do check in, please let us know who you are, where you're logging in from. If you've exercised already today, then let us know what you've done and how many MEPs you've earned. And for fun, since we're covering cardio versus resistance training, let us know that. Was your workout cardio? Was your workout resistance training? And then we can talk about that. Hi, David.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And on that note, we would love for you to share this out.
Yes.
So if there's someone that you think would benefit from this information, a fellow Myzone enthusiast, a fellow exercise enthusiast, share this video out on your Facebook page, or you can just simply comment their name in the comment section so that they can be notified of this video.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Hi, David and Jeff. And Jeff from Normal, Illinois. Is that the name of your city or town, or are you just saying that Illinois is normal? Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Very cool.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Okay, so last week, and if you couldn't check out last week, go back, scroll down on Facebook, you can check that video out. We talked about, well, a lot of different topics, but one thing that we did cover was how it's important to do cardio and resistance training if your goal is weight loss focused. It'll look a little bit different, right? But both are very important. Cardio is geared more toward caloric expenditure. That's going to be a real benefit of doing cardio, especially if you have a weight loss goal. Whereas resistance training is going to be more focused on maintaining your lean mass, your muscle, as you are losing fat and achieving your fitness goals. So these modalities might look a little different in terms of Myzone, and I want to share this with you guys because we've gotten questions at our respective fitness facilities, and we've got when you're looking at the graphs, there's a lot of different things that you can notice.
Yes.
So I want to show you guys.
Fun. You're gonna give us an action shot of your calendar, aren't you?
I sure am.
And hi, Nicole, and other folks were checking in too.
Hi. It's loading. I don't have internet. Here we go. Okay, guys, so this is my activity calendar for April 2018. I'm going to go back to yesterday, and I want to show you guys, actually, this is kind of a perfect duo example, the difference between cardio and resistance training in your activity calendar. So I show this to you because I want everyone to know that this is totally normal. This is what you can expect when you are looking at your heart rate during these modalities. So this part of the workout, see some grays, some blues, some greens, a little bit of yellow. This is when I was doing leg day, so lifting, but primarily for strength or strength training. Then I did a little cardio here, a little 30-minute cycling class, and you can see the difference. I mean, yellow, red, pretty much all the way through. So if you're going back into your activity calendar and going, I see a lot of blues and greens, is that right? Am I working hard enough? Do be thinking about what type of exercise you're performing, because it could look like this and be totally normal.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can notice some distinctions from resistance training to cardio and why.
Yeah.
And I noticed a couple people have been sharing their workouts. Camilla did 140 MEPs on a mountain bike ride. It looks like a short mountain bike ride. Right on.
Cool.
So some cardio. Right on. Thanks for sharing. And Jeff did clarify it is Normal, Illinois, the city.
Oh, that's the name of, okay, cool.
I thought so.
Yeah. Oh, funny.
All right. So that was a great example that Emily just shared of cardio versus resistance training and what we can expect to see in terms of a heart rate profile and perhaps what our MEPs earning will look like. So the way that you feel doesn't always align with what you're going to see in your heart rate and the number of MEPs that you're going to earn. For example, we can feel like we're working really hard in resistance training, right? Especially depending on what we're doing, but we might not see as much of a heart rate response. And we've talked about that before in previous blogs and broadcasts. And then in cardio, we would expect to have more of a correlation with how we feel and what our heart rate would show, and then with the MEPs that we're earning that way.
Yeah.
So some factors that are going to influence heart rate when you're using resistance training as your modality. I'm going to go through a whole list of them. The tempo of your reps, so the speed at which you are completing your repetitions, and that's probably going to have a direct relationship to the load that you're using. So if you're using a heavier load, the speed of your repetitions is probably going to be a little bit slower. And if you're using a light to moderate load, then the speed of your repetitions might be a little bit faster.
Yeah.
The faster your reps, generally, the higher your heart rate would be.
Yeah.
And then, as I just mentioned, the load. Now, if we're working on a really heavy load and only doing a few repetitions, our heart rate might spike. So we might see like a yellow or even a red response for those few repetitions if it's like a strength training day and you're doing 4 to maybe 6 repetitions. You might see an immediate spike during that heavy load, but then it's going to recover pretty quickly because you're going to be taking a rest period that's a little bit longer. And that's another factor, would be the duration of your rest interval. Remember, with endurance-based training, in terms of resistance training, our rest interval is shorter, and then with strength-based training, our rest interval is longer, which means our heart rate is going to come down more. Other factors that influence heart rate during resistance training, the level of dynamic movement. So if you're doing full body dynamic movements, you're going to see more of a heart rate response than if you're just doing like a single joint or even a multi-joint exercise that's not as dynamic. Your body position is also going to have a large influence over your heart rate. So being vertical versus horizontal will have a difference. If you're on an incline bench versus a flat horizontal bench, that'll make a difference in terms of your heart rate response. So be mindful of that as you're looking at your heart rate response in terms of what position is my body in. And body part utilized will make a difference. Lower extremity, because there's more muscle mass, more vascularity, typically we would expect a higher heart rate response than when we're doing upper body exercise. And again, multi-joint, we would probably see more of a heart rate response than single joint because we're recruiting more muscle mass. We just have more activity involved, more muscle activity, higher heart rate response. Another piece would be the duration or the number of repetitions that you're doing. So in muscular endurance-based exercise, we're doing more repetitions, which will probably take a longer period of time, which means our heart rate's going to elevate and stay elevated for a little bit longer than it would in strength training. So those, my friends, are just a few of the factors when we're looking at resistance training versus cardio in terms of what we can expect for our heart rate to do in terms of the response. So
And I think this is important because when you're going back and you're looking at your workouts, let's say you did a core day and all you did was core and you earned 70 MEPs, whereas you normally earn like 150 MEPs. You know, if you're thinking to yourself, gosh, did I do something wrong? You did not do anything wrong, guys. This is part of the game. This is the way that it's played. So when you're looking at what you can expect in terms of MEPs during your cardio and your resistance training, it is going to depend on a variety of factors. Let's say you've got an hour, right? And so both we'll compare hour to hour workout. If you're doing cardio and you are continuously active for that full hour, green, maybe some yellow, maybe even some spikes of red, you're gonna probably be earning more repetitions, more MEPs, more Myzone effort points than if you were doing a resistance training based workout for an hour where you've got these little spikes, but then you're recovering, and that's part of how you've got to train. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at your MEP outcomes and setting MEPs goals.
And that's something we talk about frequently. Hi, Sal, and hi, Michael. We talk about how you should see a variety of colors on your activity calendar. So it's totally appropriate for a resistance training day to be on your activity calendar as maybe a blue or even a gray day because of all of the recovery periods in between. Nothing at all wrong with that. Your cardio days might provide for you a little bit more of the hotter colors, the yellows and the reds. And so your average on your cardio days might be green or yellow. So you can just check that out on your activity calendar. And as Emily said, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is ideal, because then that's your body's ability to recover appropriately and have variety to meet your goals, both from like a weight management standpoint and from a MEPs earning standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so shall we demo?
Let's do.
I'm gonna demo some different exercises, guys, and we chose these exercises based on the fact that they are a little bit different from each other based on the factors that Ayla just mentioned. So we've got some more dynamic, and we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
But let me show you the first one.
Emily's going to tell you what she's doing, and I'm going to talk about how that might affect heart rate. So I'm going to step off screen a little here.
Okay, so I'm going to do a relatively heavy, for me, bent over row, double arm. I'm going to hinge forward to do it. So I'm just going to do 12 reps of everything like I might do during a normal workout for myself.
And while Emily's doing those reps, what we can see is she's using upper body, so we might expect a little bit less of a heart rate response than if she was using lower body. Because she's using heavier weight, we might anticipate that her heart rate response would be a little bit higher than if she was using lighter weight. And she's doing about 12 reps, so the duration and number of her reps is going to take under a minute. And then we'll maybe even be able to take a little bit of a look at her heart rate response. Can we look at that, Em?
Yeah, if you just double click on my phone, it'll be the next tab over. Ooh!
Have you done 12?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to take these guys to your...
Sorry.
All right, so this is, yes, we're seeing that Emily climbed up into the green,
Nice.
which is perfect, about 73% by the end of those 12 repetitions.
Yeah, which is pretty typical.
Yep.
Okay, so let's change it up. Still upper body, but now it's going to be a single arm bent over row. I'll just recover for a little bit more time.
Perfect.
Okay.
And how do I get back to the script, Em?
Just double click, and it'll...
Great, got it.
All right, so single arm bent over row. I'm still working my back, my arms, my shoulders. It's just now using one limb.
Exactly.
And this is a lighter weight as well.
So lighter weight and only a single limb, we would expect to see less of a heart rate response. And again, it's upper body, and the positioning of Emily's body, you can see because she's dropping down and her chest or her torso is a little bit more horizontal, then we may see less of a heart rate response than if she was doing an exercise where she was upright or vertical. But again, that's going to vary depending on a lot of other factors.
Totally.
Okay.
Okay.
And as predicted, Emily's heart rate response is a nice, cool, calm blue.
Nice.
So a little bit lower than it was when she was using heavier weight and performing the exercise with both limbs of the upper body.
Yes, okay.
On to the next.
Ooh, the next one is bicep curls. So with the bicep curl, single joint exercise, the last two were multi-joint exercises because I was moving through my shoulder and through my elbow. With this, I've just got movement through my elbow.
Single joint exercise, less dynamic than the multi-joint exercises Emily was just mentioning. And this weight is probably like a light to moderate weight for you. And
Yeah.
So we'll see vertical positioning of the body. I would anticipate a heart rate response that would be maybe a little bit more or right around the same as the single arm bent over row. And ladies and gentlemen, we're spot on. It is right in line with what she was doing in the single arm bent over row, a cool calm blue, almost into the green.
Yeah, and to the point we were talking about earlier, I could have maybe done a few more of those, but not a ton. It was starting to feel pretty hard. But blue, in my mind, doesn't necessarily equate to hard, right?
Right.
So it's getting past the fact that how you feel might not be reflected in the zone during resistance training.
Yes, and even to add to that further, how you feel muscularly, right?
Yeah.
The fatigue, the level of fatigue that you would be feeling from a muscle standpoint may not be reflected in your heart rate, right? So your perceived exertion might again be higher, and so might your muscle fatigue than what your heart rate's actually showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next exercise is a reverse lunge. So I'll just see right here, I've got a little bit of weight, not a ton.
Yep. And this is a much more dynamic movement because Emily is adding a step forward and back. We have lower extremity, more muscle involvement or more muscle recruitment. So we would anticipate a higher heart rate response. And she's using probably what would be like a light to moderate weight for her.
Yeah.
But because this is vertical, because this is dynamic, and it is, of course, multi-joint, we would expect a higher heart rate response, and we are there. 75%, 76. So
Nice.
climbing up toward yellow in the upper portion of the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, the next ones are on the ground. So this is something that you might do, you know, at the end of your workout or any point during the workout, but I like to do it at the end when I'm focusing more on core. So you guys can see me there. Perfect. I'm going to do a plank.
Yes. So horizontal body position. This is an isometric exercise, so we don't have any dynamic movement taking place, just isometric contraction of the core muscles. And again, because of the horizontal position, we would probably anticipate less of a heart rate response, and that is exactly what we're seeing. We're back in the blue, right around 66, 67%. And that was after her heart rate got up almost into the yellow on the last exercise.
Nice.
Now you're coming down even further, 64, 65.
Yeah.
So that just gives you an idea. Now even down into the low 60s in the blue.
But it's starting to feel hard.
Exactly.
But it's, I mean, I can conceivably even get to gray on this.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. And in that sense, it's almost opposite, right? Because it's like your muscles are fatiguing, you're getting more tired, but your heart rate's actually coming down.
Yeah. Okay, last exercise, guys. Leg lifts. So I am laying down, and I'm going to just let my legs slowly lower, and then raise back up.
Okay.
And start feeling this in my abs quickly.
So this is a little bit more dynamic than the plank. We're still horizontal, and in fact, even laying down on her back. So again, we would expect that her heart rate would come down fairly low, and her heart rate response might be around the same that it was in the plank, maybe a little bit higher. But because her heart rate was coming down from the plank, she's actually right where I would think that she would be, which is in the upper gray and now early blue. So probably with this one, the more you did it, the higher your heart rate might come up because of the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Excellent demo.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So we wanted to show you that because, again, we want you to just be aware of the different responses that you'll see in your Myzone zones and in your total MEP outcomes for your workouts, whether you're doing resistance training, cardio, or some cool combination of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure as you're setting your MEPs goals and you're creating your targets that you're setting realistic goals based on the modality that you're going to be using, whether it be cardio or resistance training. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you've got questions or you want to talk more about this topic, please comment in the comment section below. We would love to help as many of you as possible and with as many questions as we possibly can. So thank you, thank you.
Yes, and when you post, make sure that you are using the hashtags MyZoneMoves and hashtag MyZoneCommunity. We're grateful that you're a part of our MyZone community. Make sure you add us as social connections if you haven't yet. And then that way, if you have specific questions about like a cardio workout or resistance training workout you've done, we can see what you've done and we can make some comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so David is saying that's why he likes doing the Les Mills body pump, where it's lighter weight, but he gets his heart rate up because you're doing many repetitions rapidly where your heart rate's coming up and staying elevated, so you're getting some good cardio response as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we really appreciate you being here. We will see you next week, and
keep moving forward.
Bye,
Have a great
guys.
weekend.